everyone, this is Joy with Create It with Joy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's project is a really fun project using Simon Hurley's new Timber Cling background stamps and his whole new line of inks. I'm going to be doing some painting with those to make this kind of rainbow inspired card. So let's get started on this. Here is his Timber Cling background stamp. Parts of this come apart, so you can have some singular trees, you can have a section of 3 trees, and then you can have a section of 2 trees. But then you can also stamp this whole thing together as one whole unit. But I'm going to be doing it, pulling it apart. And I did not use watercolor paper for this. You could, but I didn't need to. There's not that much water that you're going to be using on this card. So I'm going to be kind of doing a rainbow type card using only his new inks, and I just kind of put them in rainbow order of how they would fit and painted. For some reason, when I saw these trees and his new ink, that is what came across my mind. So that's what I decided to do. So I'm going to line up my first tree, and I'm using my Minty. I'm taking out the foam insert piece because this is a red rubbered stamp, and so it's thicker. It's not like a clear stamp. I'm going to stamp this first one using his new ink. This is Piggyback, but I didn't have my camera on because I'm a ding dong. So the next color that I'm stamping with is Guppy. And what I'm doing is stamping these down, and then I'm using some clear embossing powder and embossing each of these trees separately. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want this dark color, and I want that the images that are in the darker ink to stand out, because then when I go back in and paint it, the painted ink will be a lighter color. So you get this two-toned effect with his inks. Now I'm going to come in with the next tree and the next color. The next color is called Sike, and it's kind of this fun yellow. I'm using the trees that have 2 together, and I did not mask off the one tree, and so I ended up having a little bit of a mark left on my paper. It worked out fine because I knew I was going to be putting my sentiment there. Thankfully, it landed just fine, but you can see that little bit of ink marked right there. So I think next time I would definitely have masked it off with some low-tack tape or paper or something like that. So again, adding the clear embossing powder, and I'm using Ranger's clear embossing powder for this. Heating it up, and then we will go on to the next tree and the next color. The next color is Tropical Tango, which is my absolutely new favorite color. Oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. Now, I will say all these colors are fantastic, do not get me wrong, but that color is my personal favorite. So I'm stamping that down, getting a good impression, and while the ink is still wet, adding my clear embossing powder to it. And you could leave these trees as is and not even paint them in, and it would still be just as fabulous. But I know that, Simon Hurley's inks are water reactive, so I did want to show that. Now we're doing the next color was Minty Fresh, and now I'm using Crown Me. So there was Piggyback, Guppy, Sike, Tropical Tango, Minty Fresh, and Crown Me, and that's the order that I went in. Finishing heating that up. Now we're all done. So I'm just using my Tim Holtz glass media mat, but you can use anything. I'm stamping a little bit of Simon Hurley's ink down on that, spraying a little bit of water into it, and I'm just using my water brush pen, even though I don't have any water in it, but you can use any kind of paintbrush. Adding a little bit of water and then painting inside these lines. And what's really fantastic is that you've embossed this, so it just kind of holds that water and that color in. Really super simple, guys. This is like one of the simplest cards, but I think it turned out so beautiful and it's so fun. I think it's a fun idea to have rainbow trees. Why not? Finishing up with this Crown Me color and coloring that in. And the less water you use, the more intense the color is going to be with the ink, with the painting. So finishing that That's all done. Now, this is Simon Hurley's Encouraging Words stamp set, and I love how big these are. So they take up a good amount, and I think it's really fantastic for this card especially. So I am using the You Make Me Smile, and I'm going to stamp that up, and I'm going to ink that using the gray tinted embossing ink. Make sure your paint is dry and prep your background with an anti-static tool. I was making sure everything was dry because you don't want your embossing powder to stick to that. Inking that up again with the gray tinted embossing ink so I can see where my sentiment is, and I really do like this ink for sentiments especially. And then I'm going to use Simon Says Stamp Ultra Fine Antique Gold embossing powder because I thought that would stand out beautiful. And see, it covers up that little ink spot that I had made that boo-boo on, and it was just like Bob Ross says, a happy accident. It totally worked out fine. Using my paintbrush to get off any little tiny pieces of embossing powder before I heat that through. I'm going to heat that up, and I'm also going to trim this down top and bottom about 1/4 of an inch. The top and 1/4 of an inch on the bottom. I'm going to use foam tape behind it because I do want this panel to have some dimension. And I will be attaching this to an A2 size white card base. I did think for a split second to use my Emboss It pins from Ranger to add some gold to the edge of the card, but I opted out on that, but that would look beautiful too. So now it has a frame on the top and the bottom, and I think that turned out beautiful. So this card's so much fun and so colorful, and his inks are so fabulous. And I loved that we could have a stamped image and also use his inks to paint. I think that is really fantastic. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of Stickles gold glittered embellishment here in and around the You Make Me Smile. And this card is done. Super easy, super fast. I think this is a great guy card. It totally fits for a guy, but obviously you could give this to anybody. That's all done. So pretty, so colorful. I love it. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by. I appreciate all of your support. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. Thumbs up, share, comment. I love all of that. I do have some affiliate links below. It costs you nothing to use, but it does continue to help me to make these videos. So thank you for using them. You guys are such a blessing to me. I'll be back. Bye.